I would like to request that we have an opening word of prayer as we start, just to add to what we had just prayed. Let us pray. Loving God, we praise you. We lift your name on high. We thank you for everything. Thanks for this opportunity that you've given us, that we may be able to meet. I pray, God, that you may bless us and guide us in every way, is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, allow me to say, a number of things were shared with me in the run-up to this, and one of our concerns was, as ambassadors and young people, we are growing up. There are so many things we have to do. There are expectations and such. And so our reflection was to just be able to put the ambassadors and have, what do the ambassadors have in mind? What do the parents have in mind? And we titled this presentation, Do You See What I See? I think it's good to start from where we are and see where are we heading. Do you see what I see? Where the big question is, why is there a seeming disconnect between the young people and the parents? Why is there a seeming disconnect? I call it a seeming disconnect because it seems like somebody seated here and insists this is what it is, and the other person probably is also insisting that actually it's not what you're reading. It is what I call the challenge of, is it 6 or it is 9, depending on where you are standing from. And everyone insists this is 6. And so at times we have situations where parents have their view, and it's a good view, and ambassadors, young people, have their view. It's a good view. And we ask ourselves, if ambassadors mean well in the 21st century, parents mean well in the 21st century, then where is the problem? Why do we seem to be having a sort of a disconnect? And so, just to get us into this, I want us to read a text. There's a text in the book of Isaiah, which is very interesting. In Isaiah chapter 1. In Isaiah 1, reading from verses 18, it says, "Come now, let us reason together." I don't know about you, but if we were to ask a simple question, the ambassadors, do we think we have moments of reasoning together with our parents? Or parents, do you think we have moments of reasoning together with the ambassadors? And before you even respond to me, I can already say, having done a feedback collection, I can already say there seems to be a disconnect. And where is the disconnect? It seems like parents are not seeing things from the direction that the ambassadors think they should see. And ambassadors also feel like it's not so clear. And that's why we are talking of, do you see what I see? I look at several challenges that are existing. Allow me to address them on a case-by-case basis, one by one. Because as I said, we did feedback collection, and this is not, could I say, a sermon. This is basically responding to feedback. Feedback came. We asked simple questions. Ambassadors, do you think it is possible for you to speak openly with your parents? And we gave our feedback. Parents, do you think it's possible for you to sit? And we gave our feedback. Now, allow me to pick this from one angle first as I begin to address this. Ours is a communication challenge. And communication is not instruction. Communication is also feedback. Communication means when I tell you do this, I also need to know, are you doing that? Communication is, I'm not just informing you to go. It means we are saying go, and this is why you need to go where I am telling you to go. You see, as children grow, There's an age where a child is told, do this. There's an age where a child feels like, okay, but you tell me to do that, but why? Now, I think the teen years, and when we talk of ambassador age, we are talking of an age which is very inquisitive. I was doing a bit of a check as I was preparing for this. I was doing a check on how do young people learn about sexuality, for instance. And this is what I learned. When a kid is young, they ask a question out of curiosity. I've just noticed I'm different from another kid. And this kid asks the parents the question. And it seems like most parents tend to feel like, oh no, you don't need to ask those questions. And you keep it like that. So this kid grows up, and the general tendency is, if a question is not responded to, they are likely to go and become what I call private investigators. And so many young people are seeking direction, but in failure to get an audience, they become private investigators. So what do young people do? We are going to ask Mother Google. What your mom will not tell you, Mother Google has answers. So we're going to ask Mother Google. If Mother Google cannot respond to the question, then we are going to ask our friends. If our friends cannot respond to the question, we are going to ask the movies. If movies cannot respond to the question, we are going to ask internet generally. So we are at a point where, rather than the right education coming from home, it seems like so many things have been swept under the carpet. One of the challenges that ambassadors raise as a big concern with parents is parents don't listen. You see, it's one thing for you to be correct, but it's another thing for me to understand that you are correct. You see, in being correct, somebody said, you don't need to raise your voice when you are right. Just upgrade your argument. In other words, you can be very right. And because you're right does not necessarily mean that everyone is listening. So just try and present your right statement in the right way. Young people, ambassadors, and I'm not saying this is right, but at times young people do it. Young people become rebellious, craving for attention. If you look at it, what is making young people rebellious? They are basically craving for attention. And why are they craving for attention? Craving for attention because the last time I told you, Dad, we need to talk. Oh, I don't know. I don't know whether somebody will respond to me on the chat. But can somebody just type for me on the chat? Do we have ambassadors, parents, and ambassadors online? Or it's only ambassadors, so that I know what questions to ask. But somebody can guide me on the chat. You can just type in, then I'll be able to pick up. But let me say something. You see, it's parents and ambassadors. Thank you. Then now I can be able to address both sides of the coin. One of the things that we have is an ambassador has a challenge. And this ambassador who has a challenge wants to be listened to. The biggest problem is they want to be listened to. But you know what? The parent is busy looking for money to be able to pay for your school fees. But the ambassador is failing exams because he's not been listened to. So what is our solution? You need to pass your exams. You need to get serious with your exams. So you sit down somebody and you want them to listen to you when you on the other side was dismissive when they wanted to be spoken, to speak to you. This is a challenge, and it's a real challenge which we are facing. I think some of the challenges that as young people we will face is a young person will just want to know, how do you go about this? I love making it real. I love speaking from real life examples. And I love giving this example by myself. There is a time I went to my father's office and I told my father, Dad, I want you to tell me how you met my mother. Well, I know it's easy to start by asking your parents, hey, Dad, what is sex? That is not easy. Because most parents, when you ask such a direct question, the next thing they will ask you is, whom have you been practicing with? As in, most parents will not even care to understand that this is a very innocent question you've asked. They will quickly judge that because you are asking this, you must have been practicing it. Not knowing that the young people who are practicing are so good at hiding it, they will never ask a question. But I went to ask my dad that question. And I noticed, like most parents, he was caught off guard, didn't know what to do. But let me ask, as parents who are within, why do we think that our young people are not open to us so as to ask questions? Could it be that the picture we've presented to them is in such a way that they cannot be open to ask very simple questions to us? You see, they say example is better than the words you say. If you say, for instance, you need to be a person of your words. Keep your words. Don't lie to me. You need to be a parent who doesn't lie. And young people, it applies the same way. Do not expect so much from your parents if you are giving very little. Give so much as well. And the same way young people, you don't like to be compared, is the same way I think parents also don't like to be compared. And your parent is your parent. And so when we talk about, do you see what I see? It's more of, we need to harmonize our perspectives. I need to explain something, a text found in the book of Malachi. Very little read, but very profound. In the book of Malachi, chapter 4, and reading from verses 5. Mostly when people talk of the Elijah message, they talk about the remnant, they talk about the Seventh-day Adventist church, they talk about the end times. But listen to what it says in Malachi 4, verses 5. Behold, I will send the Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And he shall turn the heart of the father to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers. It says, I will send the Elijah the prophet. And when I send Elijah the prophet, what he is going to do primarily will be to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, to bring the fathers and the children together. In fact, let me read it from the clear word. It says, before the great and terrible day of the Lord comes, I will send a message such as I gave to Elijah, calling the people to choose whom they will serve. This message will be taken to the whole world. It will knit my people together. The hearts of the fathers will turn in love to their children. The heart of the children will turn in love to their fathers. So our end time message are people who are preparing for the second coming of Jesus. Parents and children, our hearts should be knit together. It's difficult to understand. An ambassador, all of a sudden, you've discovered that your parents don't love you. Hey, surely, seriously. As in, let's put it this way. 20 years, somebody has been providing for you food, and now you are convinced they don't love you. I tend to think the perspective. It could be that there is a parent who is dealing with you 20 years older. He's dealing with you as if you are 10 years younger. I understand. There could be a possibility that there is a child who expects that the parent should be able to just let you do the things you want. That's why I say, are people preparing to meet the Lord? And that's why this is a good avenue for us to talk. Do you see what I see? Are people preparing to meet the Lord should be seeing things in the same direction? We need, and let me tell you, perspective simply means that we all ought to be pulling in the same direction. Not this one thinks this way and this one thinks this way. I was asked a question. What is the difference between a toxic parent and an imperfect parent. That's interesting. But I want to respond to it on this wise. You see, parents, as I normally say, let's be real. Let's be realistic. In fact, one of the questions I was asked in the questions I was getting is, are parents human? Now that's tough. Are parents human? Okay, you may not understand. Let me break it down. Do parents commit mistakes? Because it seems like some parents have presented themselves superhuman, as in they don't commit mistakes. If there are mistakes, it's committed by the child. Let me tell you, one of the best ways for us to work together and walk together in this Christian walk is be human. If you are a parent and you've made a mistake, admit to your mistake. Don't glorify your mistake, but admit to your mistake. One thing it does, it teaches your child that mistakes are not right. It teaches your child that that was a mistake. I say, and it's easy to say, I say, you see, one of the challenges when a parent says, I want you to always come home early, that is good, but lead by example. Be the one who is coming home early. And one of the things I do in my house, and I believe we can do everywhere, is when I'm coming home late, you need to know I am coming late. One thing it does, it teaches your child accountability. If dad, who pays the rent in this house, told mom that today he's running a bit late because of traffic jam, who are you who doesn't pay rent and want to walk into the house as if you're walking into any other free place? You must know there are rules. And so what I'm trying to say is, let's be human as parents. And when you become human as parents, it makes your children also understand. And being human means you are understanding. An understanding parent is not an indulgent parent. An understanding parent can be explained to today that I was late because of traffic. But, hey, my child, you can't be late every day because of traffic. If you're late daily because of traffic, please adjust your timing of leaving. Because it means you've made it now a habit. There's a difference between mistake and just now being rebellious. Mistakes are, I didn't intend to do this. But the moment you get and you're constantly doing it, it's now become a habit. Listen to this in the book of Ephesians, chapter 6. In Ephesians 6, verse 4, it says, and you parents, let's start from Ephesians 6:1, because it's a tying text. Ephesians 6:1 says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, that it may be well with you, you may live long on earth. And you parents, don't provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Don't provoke them to wrath. Don't annoy your children needlessly. What are some of the things that would annoy children? I think some of the things that will annoy children are, at times they look to be very simple in the eyes of parents, but to your children, they may not be as simple as you think. One of them is value is attached to your success. You fail in exams, you are handled as if you're not a human being. That is not good. As in a human being, that's why it's called exams. You can fail, you can pass. And by the way, two people are different. Even when they pick all your genes, it could be that the intelligence genes is it's the recessive gene that they picked. Or it could even be that when they were doing their exams, they were not paying attention. But how do you handle it? Let your children understand you still love them even when they fail exams. Do you know there's some children who are afraid of even coming home when they fail exams? If your child can come and explain to you that, you know what, I did not perform well and I know where I missed, I'm going to correct this. How many parents can confidently say that their children can come and make such a statement? That I did not perform well. I know this was my own making. I was not paying attention. Your child may be stressed. A child may be suffering from self-esteem problems at school. That is why they are not performing. And what do? We are constantly reminding them that, you know what, this kind of a grade, you're not going to make it in life. So okay. And there are even some kids who are cheating in exams so that at least daddy can be fine. I saw, and this was a bit strange, but I saw at the university there are young girls who are even selling their bodies for grades. How will you feel as a parent when you know your daughter sold her body just to get an A, because they feared that if they come home with a D, you will be the worst parent on earth. You will be the most disappointed parent on earth. Hey, remember, don't define your kid by the successes. There may be several things that they're going through. Try and understand. And this is why we are creating a platform of being able to speak. One of the things the young people are complaining, and they're asking, but we don't have a platform to open up to our parents. But I know parents are also sitting down and saying, but these young people are spending too much time on technology. They're spending too much time on social media. Nowadays, they just come home and they're seated in a corner doing their things. They're not talking to the parents. But let me ask, have you talked to them? Not only have you talked to them, but have you made circumstances conducive for talking? I did not ask. George, I didn't ask you this question, but I wish you had told me that I am free to ask questions to people targeted on the platform. I would have been very confident to ask, because I don't know. But let me ask, the parents who are online, how many parents have ever taken their daughters on a date or their sons on a date? How many parents? Any who has ever, you've deliberately taken your child on a date. Okay, I can see one courageous one has said, I have not. Have you taken your child on a date so that your child can know what is a date? In other words, before your daughter is taken by some boy and then he is done for things which he will have to pay for, please, as a parent, be the first one to take your daughter on a date so that your daughter knows this is what is done on a date. Oh, define a date. A date means you go out. Young people know what a date is. And I think if we say a date, I don't mean you go sit them down to talk them down. Sit them down and have just a nice time. Have a simple time. Let it just be light. Don't discuss their exams. Exams are already stressing me. Don't discuss with me exams. Just sit down. And please, don't be private investigator when you are on a date. Just talk light. In fact, don't even ask them many questions. Just have a relaxed atmosphere. Today we just feel like going out and just discussing nothing. In fact, you can take a different approach. Go and discuss with your son who loves Arsenal. Go discuss with them football. Spend your time, Google a few things about some football players so that you can just sit and discuss with him football. Let it not be that life is defined by success and big things all the time. As in, every time you sit down, you just want to discuss, are you going to pass your exams? Have a simple moment. In fact, let me put it this way. Those who are married understand that when you go on a date, it's not the time for you to discuss all the other things. What did your boss say? No. And why am I putting this? Because the young people are at the risk of this. Provide a platform That is what I'm saying. We are saying, do you see what I see? And this cannot be exhausted in one session. But one thing I can assure you of is we can start making platforms available for talking. Suicide is on the rise. Young people are committing suicide like nothing else. As in, young people are committing suicide. Why are they committing suicide? Before your child commits suicide, you may even find out that they're committing suicide because of the pressure they are finding at home. And young people, suicide is not a solution. I like saying in sermons, don't threaten us that you want to kill yourself. Because if you kill yourself, you're not solving it. Now that you are dead, does it mean now the problem has gone? In fact, when you will resurrect, if you commit suicide, when you resurrect in the second resurrection, you are facing another death. So if life is so tough, just reach out. And parents, please, let's provide a platform where young people can reach out. There are too many young people who are scared, and they're scared of their parents. Why? Because you feel like your parent will not understand. But young people are longing for somebody they can talk to at a personal level. And who better to talk to than your parents? Let me say something. I've always complained. I'm the elder in charge of ambassadors in my church. I appreciate young people. I appreciate ambassadors. And I love ambassadors. I love young people. I've always said so many times that I think we are going to have a crisis in a few months, in a few years to come. How many ambassadors do you think are ready to become elders in the next 10 years? How many ambassadors are ready to become head deaconess in the next 10 years? As in, we need to nurture these people into even church responsibility. And as ambassadors, by the way, we need to have greater things to think about. You cannot be an ambassador just thinking of PlayStation all the time and thinking of TikTok and Instagram and all that. Life is not just about Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, updating this, updating that, standing in front of a camera. That's not life. There are more realistic things in life. And we need to get to that point of understanding that life is defined by greater things. And because life is defined by greater things, let's take life seriously. Too many young people are settling for the bare minimum. Not only settling for the bare minimum, but also too many young people have lost focus of life. So you have a young person, they don't even know where they're heading or where they're coming from, and that's why parents are worried. Because many young people are not deliberate in the things they do. But we need to get to a point where, as young people, you become deliberate. You know, this is what I am supposed to do, and you do it. Parents have the right to be worried. When you, as a young person, can wake up in the morning, forget to brush your teeth, what is that? Parents have a reason to be worried. When a young ambassador is walking with shaggy and kempt hair, we have a reason to be worried. Parents have a reason to be worried when ambassadors are walking in bad company and their appetite for spiritual things is growing to nothing. Have a reason to be worried. Parents have a reason to be worried. When we see ambassadors are forming friends and friends of questionable characters. By the way, I learned this year. When you go and check the objectives of the ambassadors group, go check the objectives. This one, by the way, when I just saw it, I found it to be very interesting. Spend some time with the ambassador manual. And I learned that one of the objectives of the ambassadors group is to help young people to develop friendships and relationships in a controlled way, in a guided way. You need to do that. And that's why you hear me talking of, we need to learn to be more open and speak. Let's share. I know for a long time we've lived with this picture of ambassadors. Ambassadors, you need to really carry out yourself well, and it is good. Ambassadors, you don't need to get into relationship. We've said that for a long time. This year I learned, ambassadors, you can get into relationships, but it needs to be controlled and guided. Because at times you don't even know what you are going to do in that relationship. That's why you ask your parents, excuse me, if a guy says I love you, what do they mean? You need to know so that you carry out yourself in the best way. And you need to know, because your body is the temple of the Lord. You're going to represent God in every friendship you are in. You're going to represent God in how you relate to your parents. You're going to represent God in how you walk around in church. So as young people, we really need to get to a point where we carry out ourselves in a way that does not disappoint. But this is it. The cry of the ambassadors is, we need role models. In fact, I need to read this one as a point came to me. I need to read this feedback as it came to me. This statement came, and as an elder, I found it a bit painful. And this was from, I think, a young ambassador boy who was saying, as boys, we want our fathers to stop being so emotionally distant. There are fathers who are emotionally distant, detached from the boys. And what do they mean? And listen to this. I'll quote it word for word, because we cannot share our burdens with our fathers, because at times when we share the burdens with them, they tell us, and this is unfortunate, but I'll quote it because it was written, hiyo ni umama. Now that's painful. First of all, as a father, the moment you say that, what do you mean about mothers? Okay, number two, let's leave that aside. But as fathers, we need to understand that these young boys, the only picture they have of a male species is the father. You see, when a young man is growing up in the formative stages, the strongest man in the world is their father. That's why you hear young boys telling the others, my father is stronger than your father. And as they grow up, they get to know, oh no, daddy may not be that strong. I know there is somebody. And so they start talking of Hercules, they start talking of all that. But let me tell you, in their mind, the way a father carries out himself determines a lot of what the ambassador boy picks up as he goes into manhood. If the father respects the mother, this boy will grow up knowing that ladies are to be respected. We don't need a women movement to remind this boy to respect ladies. If the father respects the mother, there will be respect. And so as fathers, we are godly fathers. Let's leave this cultural thing of saying, oh, my tribe this, my tribe this, my tribe this. No, you're a Christian. You're a godly father. Love your wife. Let your son see how you love your wife. Let them see that. In fact, you need to be so serious as a father to the extent when your son is going to look for a lady, they will seek advice from you. There's some fathers, even your son is like, hey, but dad, no, let me make a choice. How you handle ladies. And that's why I say, be role models. There are issues that young boys cannot discuss with their mothers. They need a father figure to discuss with. And so if the father is still present, I beg, fathers who are still present, please provide that role. And if the father is not present, that's why we have godly parents and we have church elders and such. Please provide a role, adopt some young boy somewhere and be a good role model to that young boy. Let that young boy feel this is what true manhood is. But let's not be dismissive to them. Let's not be emotionally distant to them. It's affecting them. The boy child is affected by this emotional distance that we have. And so you see a young boy, when they get into a relationship, they don't even know how to handle themselves. So they had to break so many people. When you look at the background, they came from a background where heartbreaks were taken normal. But when as a father, you handle your wife well and you role model the young ones, we will get to a point where we will really have something. And this not only applies to the fathers, it also applies to the mothers. Be good role models to your daughters. Don't speak down on them. If she doesn't know how to do something, please, out of love, teach them how to do what you want them to do. By the way, when we give instructions, let's give instructions in the right way. And be clear. Don't leave gray areas. In fact, if you don't like, if you always want that before you go to sleep, the utensils should be cleaned, be clear that we want the utensils cleaned before we go to sleep. And the reason we want to do this, we need to have good hygiene. We need to prevent diseases, communicable diseases like cholera. We need to ensure that this place is habitable so that we don't have cockroaches and we don't have all these things. Make them understand why this should be done. It should not be that every point in time, mom walks into the kitchen, there's a third world war. It can't be like that. It should be that you can reason together. And let me tell you, if she forgot yesterday, please, by the way, one thing that I think ambassadors, not that I think, I know ambassadors don't like is good memory from the parents. Some parents have some good memory. As in, you've committed an offense today, they are remembering the thing you committed last year before COVID began. What is that? Please, let it be that if there is an issue that is to be addressed today, address today's issue and don't focus on yesterday's challenge. If it was there yesterday, address it and let's move on. If you've addressed today's issue, let's address it and move on. And let's not use that one to constantly be reminding you and making you look like there is something that you're not doing and all that. And that's why I'm saying, if there are instructions, if there are restrictions we are giving, let's give a reason for all these things. It is good. But I'm not saying that, by the way, there are points where you can be able to discuss, get their perspective. There are points where as a father, as a mother, you have to veto. You have to give direction. Your daughter does not just come and tell you, hey, mom, I feel like using contraceptives. And then you say, it doesn't matter, my daughter. If you feel like, just go ahead. No. There are points you have to veto. You have to say, this cannot be done like this. It is not right. There are things you sit down and discuss. In fact, let me tell you, if there is something like, you want to buy a new vehicle, you can sit down with your son, with your daughter, and discuss. We want to buy a new vehicle. Do we buy a Toyota or a Mercedes or a Subaru? You can discuss. That one is not a big thing. But you see, one thing it does, it shows that you also care about people's perspective. One of the best things I can always advise is even matters of curfew. For a long time before the government came up with this curfew, it was difficult speaking to young people about curfew. It was almost like you will need to sit down and discuss, what time do you want to come back home? But the government has made it simple. But beyond that, we really have to understand that there is need for us to have directions on certain things that we do. Allow me to address something that also came. a concern was brought, and this is also very clear. The young people, we need to focus on our academics. But let me ask, what is the need to focus on academics? I think parents at times get worried because they said what an old man can see when he's seated, a young man cannot see when he's standing. And that is basically talking about experience. There are certain experiences. I have heard of many young people saying, but dad, you're telling me to become number one. Show me your report card. I have no problem. In fact, I keep some of my report forms so that I'll show my daughter. Here it is if you want it. But I've said, so if your dad was number one, will you become number one? Do you want to justify being number last because your dad struggled and he was number last always? Young people, let's get serious. Just pay some attention to your books. I like putting it this way. We are not going to say don't socialize. Have friends. But please avoid negative peer pressure. Negative peer pressure is the one thing that is making a child who has good potential to perform at below average. Negative peer pressure. And that's why we have so many young people who are going and they're doing drugs. The reason you're not performing is because you're doing drugs. The reason you're not performing, you're spending too much time on social media. The reason you're not performing is because you're on this WhatsApp group, you're doing this, you don't know how to multitask. So at times, parents have the justification to be worried that you are not concentrating on your academics. Let me tell you, I tend to believe biblical approach is the best. There's a story I saw in the book of Daniel. Daniel said, prove me. You know, when Daniel said, prove me, you don't say, prove me, and then you go and sit back. You go and read. Here you are. You want to spend time and you want to be given a phone. Some parents even have to confiscate phones so that some ambassadors can study. But let me tell you, before you tell your parent that don't worry about me, I will study, please show your parent that you can be able to take your phone and put it aside and spend 2 solid hours revising. That parent is not going to attack you on the issue of the phone. Show your parent that you can wake up. And let me tell you, parents are reasonable. I know, as young people, you say, hey, but my mom normally gets up and gives me 55 things to do in a day. I don't even have time to revise. Oh, your mom is teaching you time management. Time management means you see what time to do what things, because tomorrow you are going to be employed. And when you are employed, your supervisor is going to demand a report at 8 a.m. and then your general manager wants another report at 10 a.m. and then the CEO wants another report at 11:30. Are you going to apply for a job and then when you're at your workplace, you're complaining? Let me tell you, time management is good. Look at where you're wasting time as a young person and try and use your time well. So when we say concentrate on your academics, we don't mean that now be antisocial. Have friends, but manage your time well. There is no degree in friendship, but you have a degree in the course that you're doing. So when you are in campus and you're still in class, please study. Do the right thing at the right time. That is Ecclesiastes chapter 3. There's time and season for everything under the sun. Do the right thing at the right time. When it is time to study, study. When it is time to play, play. Some ambassadors are not even going for social Sunday when you have social Sundays. Some ambassadors are not joining ambassadors in their Zoom and online meetings. When you have Zoom and online meetings, why? Please, as an ambassador, time, do good time management. In fact, if there is one thing that we really need to take keen attention on, it's time management as young people. Manage your time well. Nobody else will argue about it. Because even the problem that is being argued about technology is you're hiding behind the screen. Somebody said, if you are so glued to the screen, maybe even your parents are worried, what is it that you're learning there? That's why I wish we can be able to create some time to be able to just talk and discuss issues so that you're not focused and hiding behind the screen. Let me say something else. I see there's a parent saying there are some report forms you cannot show. Yeah, sure. There are some report forms you cannot show. But I will tell you something. Just tell your child, I can't show you my report form. I don't want your child to have the same dilemma. So please produce a report form that can be shown. And as ambassadors, please, if your parent cannot show you the report form, learn to get to a level where you can show the report form. Because at times, by the way, the concern that our parents have is because they may have seen something that didn't work and they're seeing you going in the same direction. If I messed up, and I've seen young people reason like this, that, oh, mom, you're telling me this, but even you, I had stories about you when you were a teenager, you are doing 1, 2, 3. Let me tell you something. The fact that mom did it when she was a teenager, she may be feeling so much pain that she disappointed you as a teenager. So please don't rub it into mom again. Feel the pain of mom and don't do it so that you make her twice feel the pain. Some parents are really feeling so much pain at the things they did when they were young. So please, as young people, let's not repeat the same things. In fact, do you know there are parents who are feeling guilty and thinking, my son is into drugs, it's because of what I did. But young people, we don't need to do drugs. We don't need. I know there are young people who get into drugs because they are stressed and all those things. But again, I say, as a child of God, why would we have this platform? Surely. Why would we have this kind of a discussion when you are going to do drugs tomorrow? It would not be necessary. We are having this kind of a discussion so that young people may not find themselves doing drugs, but young people may find themselves seeking solace in the Lord. Young people may find themselves understanding that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Young people may understand that failing exams is not failing life. You're not a failure in life because you failed exams. You failed exams because you wrote the wrong answers. And let me tell you, since you wrote the wrong answers, now you need to revise so that you don't continually write wrong answers. And please, as parents, let's not pressurize so much on academic expectations, because this thing has given so many young people a lot of stress. Academic expectations. And academic expectations, while they are good, let us understand. By the way, young people, you don't get an A for your mother. That A is yours. I know the young people who are saying, I'm only doing this course for my mother. You're not doing it for your mother. It's for you. And please, if you get a course and it's difficult, oh no, let me give my life story. You know, when I was growing up, my dad biased me to want to be a doctor, encouraged me to be a doctor. And I think for a better part of my younger years, I wanted to be a doctor. But at one point in time, after I had cleared my KCSE, I changed my mind, decided to take engineering. But I told myself one thing when I went for engineering. I told myself this: I have picked electrical engineering. This I picked by myself. So if I fail, it is me who has failed. It is not my dad. So partly in a way to also prove to my dad that my choice was a good one, I had to really work hard. But on the other side, one thing I have learned, if as a young person you realize that things are tough, please speak out. speak out. Learn to speak out. Your dad is waiting for an A, and you know the best you can get is a B. Sit down and talk. And if it's difficult for the two of you to sit down, you can call elder. I'm willing to come and sit with you and your dad so that we discuss about it. Because at times there is what you can achieve. There's even your potential, which we know. You know, as young people, at times you are looking for the path of least resistance. You're checking how can you go and relax at school and then bring an A. So you want us to accept the D, and yet we know that you are an A material. No, but we may need to sit down and discuss, where are we getting the challenge? While academic expectations are good, but let us sit down and discuss, where are we having the challenges? Allow me to address one other issue. I think I would want to put this to a rest in the next 5 minutes, because this is just part one. There will be another part which we'll share on another day. But in the next 5 minutes, I want to put this to a rest so that I allow, in case we have any questions we will want to air, we can air the questions or such, and then we close. A question came: what is the best way to talk to your parents or to solve issues? Because sometimes we talk and it seems like we've said nothing to our parents. What is the best way to talk? The best way to talk is to talk respectfully. And parents, please listen. Don't be too quick to provide a solution. At times when young people talk to parents, they are not seeking for a solution. They just want to talk. You see, the problem is when a young person comes and tells you, I don't know how many mothers are on the platform, but when your daughter comes and tells you, hey, there's this boy I saw in church today, what will be your first reaction? An entire lecture on the dangers of early pregnancy. Imagine. That's my wild guess. That's my wild guess. I don't know about you parents. But your daughter has just said, there's a boy I saw and that boy is handsome. Here you're sitting the boy, you're sitting your daughter down, and you want to give an entire lecture on the dangers of early pregnancy. Okay, is it necessary? Let me put it this way. Your daughter comes and says, there's this guy I saw. Develop interest. There is nothing wrong with seeing. It shows that your daughter has eyes. And if your daughter can see a guy who is handsome, it is good. So let us be able to listen. If for instance, your son comes and tells you that, hey, by the way, I think I would want to be an engineer. Oh, please, there's nothing wrong. Even if right now he's doing medicine, just listen. Listen, why is it that all of a sudden he is interested in being an engineer? When your child comes and tells you that, by the way, I think you need to give me some space. Talk about it, discuss. Why are you all of a sudden asking for space? This house has got a lot of space. What is this space you mean? Identify what are the real issues, and let's address the real issues. Because I feel that when we get to the point where we are able to sit down and we have clear communication, that's why I said, do you see what I see? Clear communication means don't get to the table when you've already made a decision. Be willing to listen. In fact, I think as parents, there are moments when you need to listen to your child and you tell them, give me some time, I need to go think about it. Let them also know that you also always think. Because you know, some of us, you are asked a question and you've responded immediately. You didn't even think about it. Is it like you're waiting just to provide a solution? Go think about it. And then say, can we have another meeting, a follow-up meeting tomorrow? We need to discuss this issue. And sit down tomorrow and talk about it. One of the things I've come to believe is when your child tells you, we need to talk, please, and this one I am going to say, it's going to be a bit hard on us as parents, but let me just say it. When your child says we need to talk, create that time. In fact, if it means we have to get leave from work so that we talk, let's create the time. Because there's nothing as pathetic as being successful, a successful CEO, and your child, you're not a successful father. It's tough. This is a challenge we face as parents. A successful CEO delivering multi-billions projects, but project raising your child, nil. We need to sit and talk. And so let's have more of this. Let's have more of this talk. We need to sit down and talk, because there is need for that. There is need for that. We need to get to a point where we can be able to confidently sit down, discuss issues. There's a question that came on financial management, and I don't think I have enough time to discuss that, but we need to sit. I think in the next session, whether I'll be there or the next presenter, but we will seek to handle also financial management. How do you deal with finances as young people? But there's just so much that you can be able to do. In fact, I just wrote something somewhere on financial management. Let me just read a quick guide. Some of the things you need to do in financial management. Allow your child as much freedom as possible in the choice of the things he purchases. Allow them freedom. Do that. Number 2, plan with your child regarding the handling of his money. Plan with them. Like, for instance, I'm like, okay, in a week, how much do you spend on airtime? How much do you need for airtime? Your daughter will tell you, I need 3,000, but okay, how are you going to spend it? And please, ambassadors, don't say that 3,000, I can't tell you whom I'm going to call. What is that? You're asking me for airtime of 3,000 and you're going to flash me back? Whom are you calling? When you ask for 3,000, account for it. Accounting is done everywhere, even in the government, they account. So ask for 3,000 and let your mom understand that 1,000 is for contacting my close friends. 2,000 is for contacting my lecturers. Simple. Plan regarding money. Commend your child when he uses good judgment in handling money. Oh, I was going to make this. Please, parents, reward good deeds. Don't only focus on punishing the wrong deeds, but reward good deeds. If your child has come home early, tell them, wonderful, that's nice. You've done good. In fact, if you are thinking like me, tell them, on your airtime allowance, I am going to give you 10% more. Reward good deeds. Don't only focus and make big noise when they mess up. Messing is normal. But let's not normalize it too much, but reward also good deeds. Another thing, warn him about borrowing money to make purchases before he can afford the items. You are teaching financial dependence, even as you help them. Number 3, encourage your child to build up a small savings account. Teach them these things, talk them these things. But a few don'ts. This one is just a quick one. Please, don't neglect to give him pocket money on time. If you promise to give him pocket money, if the money is not there, explain. I promised to give you 5,000 shillings. I don't have 5,000. The money I was expecting didn't come. Don't threaten to cancel his allowance as a means of punishment. These are things that lead at times to kids becoming naughty and starting to steal. Don't threaten to cancel the allowance. Just speak about it. Just say, you're misusing money. Let's talk about how you're misusing money. Don't say, because you misused 200 shillings, now I'm not going to give you anything for the next whole month. Then you see him calling. Ask yourself, who is funding him? Or who is funding her? Too many things I have to talk about young people, because I love young people. But in a nutshell, do you see what I see? Is a platform for us to bridge the gap between the young and the old. It's a platform for us to be able to just open up and share. These are the challenges we face as young people. This is what we want the parents to do. Let me tell you, I have concluded. Young people are shouting and saying, Dad, listen to me. And there are parents who are shouting and saying, ambassadors, listen to us. So please, rather than raising your voice, let's improve our conversation. Ambassadors, don't shout louder. Just because you want your mother to pay attention, please don't start misbehaving to capture their attention. Just tell them, please talk to me. Parents, just because you want the young people to listen to you, please don't become super harsh. Don't increase your harshness to make them listen to you. Just tell them, my son, we need to talk. And if it entails that you have to call another person, please call somebody else and let's sit down and talk. My desire, the desire of my heart, is that we will have a generation of young people who are open with their parents. Because I want to close again with the book of Malachi, chapter 4, verses 5 and 6. That the Elijah message will come before the great and dreadful day of the Lord, and he will turn the hearts of the fathers to the children. Bring them together. That parents and young people will pull in one direction. May God bless you. Over to you, moderator. Thank you.